I'll have a Q&A with you. I want to have a discussion with you. I want to be able to answer your questions. And it would be easier like that. First of all, I want to thank you for being with us this morning. Yes, I'm starting that tour here in Northern Ontario, but I started that a couple of weeks ago in BC. I was in BC, in Alberta, in Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and I'm going to Atlantic Canada next week. So I'm doing that tour because first, we may have an election this summer, maybe early this fall, and we as a political party, the People's Party of Canada, must be ready. And I can tell you that we will. At the last general election, we had 315 candidates all across the country on 338 ridings. This time, we want to have a full slate of candidates, and up to now, we approved more than 200 candidates, and I can tell you that before the 1st of September, every Canadian will be able to vote for the PPC, vote for their values. So, I want to be honest with you. So, we had only 1.6% of the vote at our first year, 3 years ago, our first elections. But it took 20 years and 6 elections for the Green Party of Canada to have more than 1.6% of the vote, and we did that in our first year. This party is growing, and we don't do any polling. We are doing politics based on principles and conviction. So if I'm looking at the public polls, we may be around 4, 5, 6%. And, that's great because I'm taking as an example the Green Party of Canada. After 38 years, the Green Party of Canada, historically, they're always around 5, 6, 7%. And us, if after 3 years we are there, that's growing and that's important. We need a voice in Ottawa. So to have some changes, we don't need to be the government. We can have some changes without being in government. We can have the balance of power if there's a minority government. But the most important, we will ask the real and the most important questions every day in the House. So I believe that some of our candidates will be elected. But I need you because it's an important time right now. Our Western civilization values are under attack. And when I'm saying that, it's not a slogan. That's the reality. Under attack by the UN with the Paris Accord. As you know, we are the only national political party against the Paris Accord. We know that the climate is changing, and that's okay. But we won't impose a carbon tax. We won't impose more regulations. The environment, it's a shared jurisdiction with provinces. So if a province wants to impose a carbon tax, they'll be able to do that. But us at the federal level, we will do more concrete actions for the environment. There's still some lakes that are polluted and rivers, and so we can do a lot there, but we won't impose a carbon tax. So that's a huge difference between us, the Conservatives, and all the other political parties. And the UN also tried to influence us with their migration compact, their compact on migration. So the UN and the socialists over there believe that every country must be open, that everybody must be able to go in any countries. We think that it's a privilege to be Canadians, and we don't believe in a mass immigration. We believe in sustainable immigration. We like our country, and we want our country to be like that in 25 years. So that's why instead of having 400,000 newcomers every year, we will have a maximum of 150,000. All the other political parties, the NDP, the Liberals, the Green, the Conservatives, they are all for more and more and more immigrants, for mass immigration. But actually, if we have 400,000 newcomers every year, that is the population of New Brunswick every 2 years. So for us, and the majority of them are not skilled immigrants, are refugees that are crossing the border in my own province in Quebec illegally and asking and telling that they're refugees. But for me, if you're coming from the state of New York, your life is not in danger over there. We must help the real refugees that are where their life is in danger in another country. So that's the most important. But our immigration policy must be in line with our economic needs, and that's the most important. So we need to have a discussion about immigration, and we are starting that discussion. So that's an important policy for us. And all these COVID, all the COVID hysteria. COVID is real, COVID is out there, COVID-19, that's okay. But we need to say no to all these draconian lockdowns. That's the first time in the history of the world that we are using lockdowns to fight a virus. There's other way to do that. You know, you can protect the older people, the most vulnerable must be protected. But we must reopen the economy. And right now, this summer, we can enjoy a little bit of our freedoms. But next fall, they will come back with lockdowns. And, you know, I want people to be able to go to their church if they want. And all businesses for me is essential. So I'm doing that fight with the End the Lockdowns caucus. But for us, lockdowns, also the vaccine passport. About the vaccine, I always said that everybody must be able to decide if they want the vaccine or not with the right information, informed consent, that's important. But also I'm against, and we are against a vaccine passport. In Quebec right now, the Premier of Quebec said that if they don't have 90% of the population vaccinated before the first, with the 2 doses, before the 1st of September, they will impose a vaccine passport. So that means that if you want to go to a restaurant, you will be in a position to show your paper, to show if you have the vaccine or not. For us, it will create two classes of citizens, the ones vaccinated and the ones not vaccinated, unvaccinated. We don't want that. It's like in a communist country. Everybody must be equal before the law. And the information about if you have the vaccine or not, it's a private health information, and you must not be in a position to answer a question about that. That's a fight that is important because that's coming. That's coming in Quebec, that's coming in Manitoba, and maybe all across the country. So again, if you look at the traditional establishment political parties, we, the People Party, are the only one that is fighting against lockdowns and against a vaccine passport. So I can go on and go on our policies, but what I want to tell you is if you want to have something different, it will be the time to vote for what you believe and vote, look at our platform. We will have great candidates all across the country. Every Canadian will be able to vote for what they believe. And I want to finish with an anecdote that happened to me when I was in Manitoba. As you know, I decided to go to Manitoba, and the day before, the Premier said that I was not welcome. And if I'm coming to Manitoba, he said something like that, my wallet will be emptier. And before going to Manitoba, I received a letter from the head of the Manitoba Health Department, and he said if I'm going to Manitoba, I will have to quarantine for 15 days. I decided to go to Manitoba because it's my constitutional right to travel all across the country. And as you know, I did a morning like that, around 10 o'clock, a first meeting with the executive of our riding association. We were only 7 in a park, social distancing, and I was answering their questions. And the goal was for that riding association to be ready for the next election. But after that, I've been arrested, handcuffed, put in jail like a criminal for a non-crime after a political gathering. And if you saw that video, what I said when the police asked me a question, actually, as you know, that was the first time that I was arrested, the police said, do you have any weapons? Do you have anything that can hurt me? I was surprised by that question. I'm a politician. I'm not traveling with weapons on me. And I said only my words, only my philosophy. And that's important. Only my words. My words are my weapons. And I want you to be out there and to use also your words. I want your words to be your weapons. And speak to your friends, your family. If everybody of you, each of you, speak with 10%, this party will grow. I need your support. I need your help, because this country is going in a direction that I don't like, with more socialism, more government intervention in our day-to-day life. We are and we will be poorer because, as you know, there's a huge deficit of $340 billion, and we are paying for that right now. We are paying for that with the Trudeau inflation tax. That's a tax, the inflation. If you go and do your grocery, you'll see there's about 4 or 5% inflation. That's a hidden tax. Instead of taking your own money in your own pockets and giving that to the federal government, Trudeau is telling you, keep your money in your pocket, but you won't be able to buy the same amount of goods and services with your money. Your purchasing power is going down. Everybody will be poor, and that's the inflation we are paying right now, and that inflation will go up and up and up. We must stop that. We don't want a country where everybody will be poor, and also we are losing our freedoms. When I'm saying that, it's a reality. Look at the censorship on social media coming from the big tech corporation, Google, Facebook, and Twitter. I can tell you that's real. But also now the Trudeau government wants to impose more censorship on us on social media with the Bill C-36. That bill is not in force right now, but it will be if we have a Trudeau government. It will be enforced. So what Trudeau is telling us that hate speech and hate crimes are very important in Canada, and we must fight that. But the reality is the opposite. Less than 1% of all the crimes in this country are related to hate speech, and 65% of these crimes are graffiti on a wall. So that's not a problem, but Trudeau is using that as an excuse to give more power to bureaucrats in Ottawa that will be able to look at what you're saying on social media. And if you are insulting somebody, that can be a kind of a hate speech. They want to have a new definition of hate speech, and instead of using the definition that we have right now in the criminal code. So that will be, you'll have a new bureaucracy with bureaucrats looking at what you're saying on social media. That's not a democratic country. They're doing that in China, in Russia. I don't want that here in our country. So we are the only political party that is fighting against that, for having back our freedoms, against the consensus on political correctness, against that woke culture, against identity politics. I don't try to tell you what you want to hear. I'm telling you the truth and the facts, and if you like that, I hope you will support our party. If not, you can vote for all these others political establishment political parties. So that's the People's Party. We created that party based on 4 principles, and we will always follow our principles: individual freedom, personal responsibility, fairness, and respect. And all our policies are in line with these principles. We won't change. The last election, 2019, we had the same platform, and the platform and our program for this election is the same that we had in 2019, and that will be the same in 2024 or 2023 when we'll have another election, because there's bold reforms that needs to be done in this country, and we will speak about that until we succeed. So that's a kind of a revolution, a common sense revolution that we are doing. And actually, I must admit that the common sense is not so common these days. So it's a common sense revolution. It's an ideological revolution that we are doing. That can take time. what I can tell you, that we will win, but I don't know when. If we have 10 or 15 candidates elected, we will have a voice, and every day we will speak and use all the tools that we have when you're a member of parliament, all the tools in parliament to ask questions to the government, to promote our ideas, and that will be important. So I'll give you an example. I like to speak about the Green Party of Canada. They have only 3 members of parliament right now, but they won the debate. They won the debate on the climate change. Every establishment political party has a huge platform on climate change, and the last one is the Conservative. So together, but I need you for that. I need you, like I said, don't be afraid to speak about what you believe. Because what is the goal if we have the right ideas to keep these ideas for ourselves? We won't be able to promote what we believe in. And it's not because our ideas right now are not so popular that they're not just and true. An idea does not become popular because it's just and true. Our ideas, our freedom ideas, are just and true, and they will become popular because we will always speak about it. We will always all together speak about our ideas and what we want as a society. We have a vision for this country, and contrary to the other political parties that think that they know better than you, we at the People's Party of Canada, we have faith. We have faith in you. We have faith that you have the ability, the dignity, and the right to make your own decisions and determine your own destiny. That's the People's Party of Canada. That's why we are calling our party the People's Party. We want to give a real new option for Canadians, and that's the option. And I'm proud to say that this party is a populist party. Yes, we are listening to people. We are putting Canadians first and our country first, not the UN, not any international organization. And we will also, at the same time, bring our money back. We are sending a lot of money to Africa to fight climate change, or to Asia to build roads. It is not the role of this government. We will bring that money back here in Canada to help Canadians first. So I'm telling you, go on our website, People's Party of Canada. Don't hesitate to read our platform. And after that, if you like it, I hope you'll support us, and I hope you will be able to convince some of your friends to support us. So that being said, let's have a conversation. I'm ready to answer some of your questions. Don't hesitate. And I want to thank you for taking the time to be with us today. Thank you. So, who will ask the first question? Yes. The first one will be having that discussion on immigration, being sure that we have 150,000 immigrants a year, being sure that every one of them will have an interview, and knowing if they believe in our values. So everybody is equal before the law, equality between men and women. That would be important. The second one will be to end the Paris Accord, and to be able to build pipelines in this country. That would be important. So that's why we have a platform, and we will focus on our platform. But the first one will be also to do everything to balance the budget in 4 years, not in 10 years like O'Toole wants to do. And we'll be able to do that because we'll cut corporate welfare, we'll save $5 billion over there. We will also at the same time cut all the funding to mainstream media. The CBC, we can save $1 billion there. So there's a lot of things that we can do to be able to balance the budget in 4 years, and that would be important to do that also. Thank you. Yes? Yeah. So healthcare is a provincial jurisdiction. I don't want to interfere in provincial jurisdiction. So what we will do, right now when there's a crisis in our healthcare system, you don't know who to blame. Is it your provincial government or is it the federal government? Because the federal government is giving money to the provincial government for health care. So what we want to do, we want to stop that. Healthcare is a 100% provincial jurisdiction. The federal government must not interfere in healthcare. So instead of taxing you and after that taking that money and giving that to provinces, and there's no incentive for a province to be more efficient and to have a better healthcare system. So I want to give them the incentives to change the system if they want to change it to be more efficient. And the way to do that is to stop to give money to provinces for healthcare, but instead of that, every year the federal government is giving $40 billion to the provincial governments for healthcare. We will cut that, but we will give them the responsibility of the GST. So the GST right now, with the GST, the federal government is receiving $40 billion. So instead of taxing and giving that back to provinces, provinces will be able to raise the money that they need for health care. So if something happens, they won't be able to go back to the federal government and ask always for more money. They will be in a position to do the changes that they need to do. So instead of giving them subsidies, we will give them all the money that is coming from the GST. They will be in charge of the GST. So they will have the money for their own responsibility for health care. And that will be an incentive for them to change the system, because they won't be able to go back to Canada and always ask to the federal government and always ask for more money. So all these problems, all these challenges that you have at the provincial level, if you ask your provincial MLA, he will tell you, oh, we don't have enough money from the federal government, we cannot do anything. Now they will be able to raise their money for their own responsibility. We will respect the Constitution, and they will be more accountable. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Actually, we have a nice Constitution, but the problem is politicians, establishment politicians, don't respect and don't follow our Constitution. So we cannot change the Constitution. What we need to change is our politicians. So if we elect people that will respect the Constitution, that will be important. So they are not accountable right now, but because for them the Constitution is not so important. So the best way for everybody to be accountable is to have somebody from the People's Party in Ottawa that will always ask the right questions and put them in front of the public, and it will happen. We need to have a new way of doing politics, and also it's that's why we don't do any polling, because I'm not there to try to be in government as soon as possible by telling you what you want to hear today. I'm here because I believe in our ideas, and I believe that our ideas will win. The more we speak to people, the more support we will have, and that's our goal as a populist party. When we started that, we maybe had only 1.6% of the vote. Now we are around 5%, and that party will grow. So they're not accountable. It's human nature. I cannot change that, but we can put people that will be accountable there. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. For the private council, I must say that I'm part of that, because it's only an honorable title. Actually, if you are a minister in Canada, every person, like I was a minister, I was a foreign affairs minister, I was an industry minister, and after that, you have that title to be a privy council member. but there's no meeting, there's no nothing, you know. It's only a title. I don't have any power, I cannot do anything, I cannot decide what Trudeau is doing. The real power is in the cabinet meeting, the people who are elected right now and member of the cabinet. That's the Trudeau's team. So all that private council, yes, it's a title, but I never received any phone call from the Queen or participating in a meeting. The only meeting I had was when I was elected and a minister. So for the Queen, you're right. On paper, she is the chief of our country, but it's only on paper. I don't need to change that. Trudeau can do everything, and now he's doing everything. We don't go, and the only thing that the Queen can do it's the Governor General. Every time that we pass a legislation in Canada, that legislation to be enforced has to be approved by the Parliament, and after that by the Senate, and after that by the Governor General. And every time, and if the Governor General say no to a legislation, that legislation won't be enforced. So that will be a case where the Queen has an influence on us. But it didn't happen. It won't happen. The Governor General always approve the legislation, always say yes to the legislation that were approved by the Parliament and by the Senate. So the Queen on paper, she must be the chief of our country, but it's only on paper. And I don't want to reopen the Constitution to change that, because that will be a huge debate and for nothing. Actually, Trudeau can do everything. You can see it. He has a minority government, and he can do everything with the help of the NDP. So yes, on paper you have the Queen as the head of our country, but it's only on paper, and I don't want to spend energy to change that. We still have big reform to do to gain back our freedoms in our country, then having a discussion about that. Yes.
What's your position on the Bank of Canada and how maybe it could be taken back to paying people and use it to pay for health care or infrastructure and things like that? Like it was used in the past, but I think its allegiance is more to the World Bank now than it is to paying people. I just wanted to have any
Yes.
policy on that.
Yes, we are the only party that has a policy on that, and it's an important question on the Bank of Canada, because right now the Trudeau government was able to do that huge deficit of $340 billion because the Bank of Canada was there to finance that. And when they're doing that, they're creating money out of thin air. And when you do that, you're creating inflation. So the Bank of Canada has a target of 2% inflation, but that target will go up and the inflation will go up. But inflation, like I said, it's a hidden tax. We must, 20% inflation is not good, 2% inflation is not good. What we must ask the Bank of Canada to be sure that we will keep our purchasing power, and the Bank of Canada must have a target of 0% inflation. 0% inflation, that means that you will keep your purchasing power. Now your money is losing every year 2, 3, 4, 5%. And so if you want to not get poorer, you need to have an increase about 2, 3, 5% every year. So the Bank of Canada right now, they are financing the federal government, and with all these programs that the Trudeau government is putting forward, but at the same time they're creating inflation. So our position on the Bank of Canada is to have an agreement with the bank for a zero inflation target, and like that we will keep our purchasing power and we won't have inflation. So that's the most important. And you're right saying that the Bank of Canada with the Fed in the US, they are printing money out of thin air, and that's that's why we have inflation here and in the US. It's not the role of the Bank of Canada to bring inflation. in our country. Thank you. Yes.
How you stance on agriculture? Like, we just start up a new butcher shop in a small town. The regulations are so fierce that I can't even open my doors. And you get a butcher shop, you go to 2 or 3 places in Canada that actually do have butchers. We just do something in Canada.
Yeah, we don't have any position on that. I'm not sure if it's provincial and federal. Do you need to have a permit for from the federal government also? Yeah. So, but I'm not aware of all the details of that. Maybe if you can write to us at People's Party, we'll look at it and have a position. But right now, we don't have a position on that, and I don't know. So maybe if you can inform me, write at info@People's Party of Canada, 2 or 3 paragraphs. We'll look at it, and we'll look if it's mostly a federal jurisdiction or a provincial one. If it's a federal jurisdiction, we'll look at it and try to have a solution. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, there's 2 battles over there. We are doing the battles to change the public opinion, but there's another battle in court that is important. And I know that the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms is doing that battle. And they have a case. They have cases in Manitoba, here in Ontario, and that's the organization that represent me for my case in Manitoba. So we need to sue this government, and they're doing that. And but the problem or the challenge is, it will take a couple of years before we have a final decision. That may go up to the Supreme Court of Canada. But you're right, we must do that battle to change the public opinion, but also that battle in court. But it's not the role as me as a politician, but it's the role of the Justice Center, and they're doing that, fighting, and for Canadians, for free. They don't charge anything, they're taking cases, and they just won a case in Manitoba against the jail hotel. So that's a good victory. But as you know, the government over there appealed to that decision, so it will go up. But actually, there's 2 battles, and you're right. If you want to be able to bring back our countries, we must be able to do the battle also in court. Yeah, but you have a point there. There are some judges that are not, interpreting the law. They're making the law. That's the role of the politicians and politicians in Parliament to do the law, to make the law. But you have some judges that will go further than only just interpreting the law. They will rewrite the law. And that's not what their job description is as a judge. But also we have leftists everywhere. That's why we are in a socialist era right now in Canada, and not only in Canada, in the other countries. We have journalists that are not doing their job with honesty. They are more activists, leftist journalists, and mostly it's in the mainstream media, because Trudeau bailed out the media, Radio Canada, CBC, and all the mainstream media. Trudeau gave them a lot of money, so they are not so independent. Now the mainstream media is more dependent from the government, and you want them to be independent. That's why we will cut all that funding. Same thing also for in the university, the professor. It's all leftists over there. I'll give you an example. I have a friend of mine that is sitting on the board of one university in Alberta, and he had a board meeting a day, and he said, we must do something because the influence of China in Canada is growing. And we need to do some research about that to know a little bit more. And as you know, we have a position on China. They won't be able to bail out our natural resources, and so we want to be independent from China. But he said we need to have a study on China and the fact that China is more active here in Canada and the Chinese Communist Party. So the discussion went on, and the chair of the board said, in the end, we won't do it. We won't do it, and do you know why? Because that university received funding from the Communist Party of China. So that's happening here in Canada. So that's why these socialists and communists are everywhere. And that's why I'm saying, we must gain back our country. And we must do that fight together. So I like this country, and I want this country to be like it was before all these crazy wokes start to, all that political correctness. They're telling us that, you cannot celebrate Canada Day. I was the only politician in Ottawa celebrating the 1st of July because you must be ashamed to be Canadian. No, I'm a proud Canadian, and we must be proud to be Canadian. And all that, racial politics and political correctness, there's no systemic racism in this country. Yes, some individual can be racist. That's the case everywhere. But the only racial systemic racism that we have in this country is the Indian Act. That act is based on race. It is a racist act, and that's why we want to abolish it. But thank you. Yeah, that's the government with that act. Yeah. And I'll give you another example. The Trudeau government just maybe 2 months ago created a new program for black entrepreneurs. So for us, we'll abolish that. If you're a white entrepreneur, you won't be able to have funding. But if you're a black entrepreneur, you will. That's racial politics. For us, everybody is equal before the law. We need to abolish that. I'm tired of looking at the Canadian. Are you a black? Are you a white? Or yeah. I'll give you an anecdote about that. At the last general election, a journalist from CTV called us in 2019, and that journalist, that lady, asked a lot of questions. How many black candidates do you have? How many gay candidates do you have? How many Jewish candidates do you have? How many LGBT candidates do you have? So we didn't answer these questions. And so the journalist called back 2 days later. And she said, you're the only political party that didn't answer my questions. I will publish my paper tomorrow. I'll give you another chance to answer all these questions. And we said, we don't know. We don't know the answer of all your questions. And she said, why? And we said, because we don't care. We don't care. It's not important for us. The most important for our candidates, they must share our values. We don't do pandering and racial politics. And no, for me, you are a Canadian. You can be a Jewish, a Christian, a gay or not gay or straight. It's not important. It's your personal life. For me, I want you to share our values of freedom, equality before the law, equality between men and women. That's the most important. So we don't play that game. And she did that paper, and all the other establishment political parties, the Conservative, the NDP, they were proud to say we have 3 gays or 3 LGBT candidates. And no, we don't play that game. I'm tired of that political correctness. Yes. Yeah, the education, it's a provincial jurisdiction, so we won't interfere. But I can tell you that I'm speaking sometime when I have a question, but I cannot change that. Like in BC, in the educational system, and maybe here in Ontario, they are teaching sexuality to very young kids, and they're telling them you may not be a guy or you may not be a girl, and so if you want to transit to another sex, you can do it. Personally, I'm against that. A boy is a boy and a girl is a girl, and that's it. but but I can speak about it, but I cannot do anything because I'm not running at the provincial level to change the education system. But I'm scared about that. Yes, you're right.
Our kids don't even understand what they're teaching them. And then they're confused. They're like, am I gay because I love my friend? Like, they don't even understand the different kinds of love.
Yeah.
You know, the stopping them. Oh, there's something wrong with you because you're COVID. They're teaching our kids to have mental problems because they don't understand what we're teaching them. And as a parent, I should have the choice whether I want my kids to learn instead of learning math, English, all the things that are important in life. They waste their time on this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a critical race theory, and there's no gender anymore. You can be a man, a woman, or in between, and no, there, it's.
And it was also on the, I was requested what is the role I can identify as a he, or a he, or a that, or an it. And I mean, why does the government even need to know that?
No, don't answer that.
Oh, I had to tell them to get off my lawn.
That's
So
good.
they keep coming back.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, but that's why when I'm saying we must fight for our Western civilization values, and that's the situation right now. And more people are waking up now. That's why when I'm doing a tour across the country, I can tell you that we don't have a voice right now in the mainstream media. They are canceling me. And they don't want to have that discussion. But I can tell you that after the next election, first of all, I'll be on the stage when we'll have the national debates against the other leaders. I'll be there, and I'll be the only one that will answer questions and also show to every Canadian that these establishment politicians are all the same. And if they want to change, climate change, immigration, woke culture, name it, Paris Accord, the building pipelines, name it, we are the only party that stands for Canadians, and that will give us a lot of visibility. And I believe that at that time, the mainstream media will be in a position to cover us a little bit more. That will help for our debate. Yes.
How worried should we be if the office lab scientists taken off? Where are they with the virus?
Yeah. First of all, we don't know it. We don't have all the information. The Trudeau government didn't want. Yeah. It's a cover-up. It's a cover-up. And yeah, it's a cover-up. I want to do more, and I will ask questions to know more.
But are we in what kind of danger? Look what happened with coronavirus.
Yeah.
Now we got,
How they can't control it.
Yeah.
now we got Chinese scientists working in our lab.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the States working with
But
Fauci working with the same outfit.
But also, don't forget, Trudeau said to the Chinese Communist Army that they can come here and train in Canada during winter.
Yeah, for military.
Yeah, so that
Pilots right out in Alberta.
yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
We'll stop that. Yeah. Yes.
Power.
Do you know about, like, every person born in the geographic area of Canada, there's a birth bond registered at the Cape Manhattan Bank, 55 Water Street, New York, USA. And that's what our money is written on. Do you know about that?
No, I don't know about that, and I don't think it's. I don't believe it's real. But I don't. I think the most important for us is to. We want the government to let us live our life, and now they try to. You cannot go. This winter they were telling us there's no Christmas. You cannot celebrate Christmas because of COVID-19. No, I want to do what I want to do in my own house. And they said they were telling us there's no Eastern also. You cannot celebrate that. Let's be honest, if you're not at risk, and that's why personally I decided not to take the vaccine, because if you are under 70 years old and you're in shape, the chances of you to die from COVID are 0.05%. So I decided not to take the vaccine because the data and the statistics are on my side. I'm 58 years old. I think that I'm in shape. I like to run. I'm a runner. But also, if I have COVID, I have 99.95% chances of surviving from COVID. So that's the information that's coming from Statistic Canada. So I took that decision personally, but I respect everybody. Everybody must be free to decide if they want to have the vaccine or not with the right information. Informed consent, that's important. And I took that personal decision, but we must not impose a vaccine passport to everybody. Yes. Yeah.
What was up with that? I've never seen that in my life.
Yeah, true. But that's Statistic Canada, and they're doing that. They're doing that because they want to have more information on you, and after that they will create programs and things like that, and spend money that we don't have.
It almost seems like they wanted to separate us in class or something.
Absolutely, that's the new thing. Politicians are not looking at you as a Canadian. They try to put you in little boxes. Okay, you're a gay Canadian, we'll do something special for you. You're a black Canadian, we'll do something special for you. Like I said, a program for black entrepreneur. You're a LGBT. They try to put us in a little box. And like what's his name? Martin Luther King Jr. said, I don't want to be judged by the color of my skin. I don't want to, and I will add, I don't want to be judged by my sexual orientation. I want to be judged by my character. And, if you say that today, they will tell you you're racist. Like they said, all black lives matter. I said, no, all lives matter, So they're doing that. It's called, racial politics. It's called pandering. It's called identity politics. We don't play that. For us, you're Canadians, and that's it. And the newcomers and the new Canadians, they're coming here because they want to celebrate our values. They want to be part of a free country. And I can tell you, when I'm doing that tour, there's a lot of new Canadians that are coming from former communist country. They know what is happening, and they're scared. They're looking at the future and they're scared. So they understand we need to wake up as Canadian, and it will happen. It will happen. We'll have more support. But yes, all the other politicians are playing identity politics, racial politics, but it is not the way that we must build a free and democratic country. Maybe the last one? I don't know. Yes? Yeah. Okay, so I understand the question. So, as elite politicians, establishment politicians, like I said before, are doing pollings and focus group. They want to know what is your preoccupation, and after that they will repeat it. But maybe they don't believe in that. They're just saying that to be in government, and after that they'll do the opposite. They'll do the opposite because they just told you what you wanted to hear to have your support. I'm not doing that. When I'm speaking about against identity politics, against lockdowns. You know, maybe there's only 20% of the population that believe in that. I'm doing politics differently because I believe that we have the right ideas. The more we speak, the more support we'll have. I don't do any pollings. And right now, you don't have any opposition against these draconian lockdowns because the official opposition in Ontario, the official opposition in Ottawa, their only goal is to be in government. And their only goal is to be in government, so they won't have the support of these 60% of Canadians that are saying it's okay to have this lockdown. They want to have their support. And for me, you know, it's not that I'm not doing that to try to have the support of 60% of the population that is for the lockdowns. I'm saying that so I won't change. If I'm elected or when I'm elected, I won't change. I'm speaking with the minority, and if I'm elected, it's because I have the majority on my side, and I will have the mandate to do this reform. So I won't tender to the majority, and I'm not doing that right now. I hope the tiny minority will become a majority, and I believe it will. But the traditional politicians are looking at the majority. The majority is scared. They're afraid of that virus. They want to have more lockdown. So I won't speak against lockdown to have their support. That's what they're doing. So that's why you cannot trust them right now. And for me, you know, my end goal is not to be prime minister. I hope a day I'll be prime minister. But my end goal is for our ideas to win, and to win that battle of ideas. And we may win that battle, and I may be prime minister a day. But for me, it's too important to gain back our country and to win that battle of ideas against that socialism that is everywhere in our country right now. So that's why I'm doing politics differently based on principle. So I won't change because when I'll be in government, I will have the mandate to do these changes. What I'm saying to you today, I said the same thing 2 years ago. I said the same thing when we created the People's Party, and I will say the same thing in 5 years or 10 years until we win that battle of ideas. So, yeah. So we have to go. I really appreciate your time. So please go on our website, read our platform, be informed, and if you like it, speak about it. But I can tell you that the time will come, and I don't know what will happen, but I don't know when it will happen. But I know that we will, like I said, win because we have the best ideas, because we believe in people. We don't believe in a big government, because we believe in our Western civilization values. So let's do that battle together. And thank you very much for giving me your time and be with us today. Thank you.